Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. I want to say hello to everybody, and I hope you guys are having a great day. Today, live recording is Saturday, but of course, you can listen any day of the week. And I want to say hi to everybody who is in here joining us this morning. I see Think Tank. Clarence Wilson, B1 out of San Francisco, J Monty, Popeye's Chicken for her anytime. I see you've already got an opinion on our topic for today. Well, as we begin our conversation, I'd like to ask you guys, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. Also, don't forget that this is the home for intelligent Black people. So this does not mean that you have to have any income level or any particular education level. It just means that you have to value intelligence. I like the idea of having smart Black conversations about important topics, particularly things like dating and mating. And the reason that these topics are important is because you can't exist if you don't mate with somebody. If somebody had not made it with another person, you would not be here right now. The reason that these conversations are important is because your families are kind of falling apart. And because your families are falling apart, your wealth is falling apart, right? So give me a yes if you understand the linkage between dating, relationships, and wealth. Give me a yes in the chat if you understand where this is coming from, because a lot of people don't get it. A lot of people think, why in the heck would you be talking about something like this? Why would you bring this topic up? And I say I bring it up because these are the important topics. These are the things that matter. Most people that end up financially devastated, usually if you look in their track record, there's a bad relationship somewhere along the way, right? There's usually something that involves the opposite sex or even the same sex. I'm not judging. Give me a yes if you know what I'm talking about. If you've seen that connection, that connecting with the right person can elevate you economically, spiritually, and otherwise. Connecting with the wrong person can devastate you and destroy you. Give me a yes in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. Can I get a witness? Has anybody gone through this? Has anybody been through the storm? Because I know I have. And one of the things that that I found today is that there was a study, this crazy study that said that 33% of women date just for free food. That literally that there are women about a third, according to the study, a third of of all women will have at some point gone on a date, not because they liked the dude, not because they were trying to make a connection, not because they were looking for a relationship, but because they were hungry. They didn't have enough food in the refrigerator. And I'm gonna tell you, when I put this up, I put it on my Instagram. My Instagram is the real Boyce Watkins. If you ever want to follow me on the gram, and if you like intelligent conversations and you like to be challenged, follow me on Instagram at the real Boyce Watkins. And there was a really interesting discussion that followed when I shared this study, and I saw a wide range of emotions, most of which was kind of the obvious, right? The obvious, which was, why would somebody do that? These gold diggers out here, what's wrong with them? This is bad. How this is crazy. How could somebody do that? And I get that, right? All that makes sense. And but here's the thing: my goal is not to really dig into the obvious. My goal is not to sit here and tell you that water is wet, unless the goal is to also look at the components of the water and figure out why it's wet, or figure out whether or not this is healthy water or toxic water. Right? Water can make you healthy or it can kill you if it has the wrong toxins in it. My plumber came by and he was talking to us about the water filtration system. And he said that the water supply has arsenic in it. And I said, he said, I'm not a doctor, but arsenic is pretty bad. I said, yeah, I hear that it is. And so ultimately, the same thing is true, I think, with almost any other topic. A lot of times, one of the things that challenges me and frustrates me a little bit is that there is almost like an effort to kind of dumb down a society. There's like this consistent effort to sort of make things either black or white, yes or no, male or female, right? And I don't believe in that, right? So here's the first thing I'm gonna say. The first thing I'm gonna do is admit to you. Give me a yes if it's okay if I say things that offend you and we can still love each other. I hope it's okay. Because the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to offend some people. And the reason I'm going to offend some of you is because I'm going to sit here and make this bold proclamation to the men that this ain't just the women's fault. If you get played like a sucker, I know, and people call this victim blaming. People say, oh, well, you're blaming the victims and all that. I don't believe that it's just the women's fault. Now, don't get me wrong. I read a story about this study. And one of the things that they did find is that women who do this kind of thing, if you are in this category, if you've behaved this way, you might want to think twice about it, because they actually described these behavior characteristics as being connected to being a psychopath, literally a psychopath. And so ultimately there is an accountability that obviously goes there toward women that would be that would be desperate enough or malicious enough or unethical enough to take it to go on a date with a man with no intentions of ever connecting with him romantically, knowing that that's what he wants. You kind of know, you could tell. Y'all ladies can tell, right? Give me a yes if you know what I'm talking about. You can tell if a guy likes you or not. You can tell if he's, hoping that something bigger will come out of this. But I'm going to go ahead and take this next step forward and kind of say that for the men, I encourage you as you go into the manosphere. I'm sure the manosphere will pick up on stories like this, and the manosphere will say, "These women, see, this is why I only date women in Saudi Arabia, and I went to Thailand and got me a woman called these black women. They a bunch of gold diggers. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You got the men that these women, these black women, that's why I'm dating Becky. Cause these black women, they just be taking your money. They expectations is too high. They just be, I get all that, right? You hear all that. And that's what they're going to run with. That's that victim narrative. And one of the things I want to warn men about, and this is just me talking as a man. And I don't have to prove my manhood to anybody. I was raised by a real man. When you are a man, you don't have to thump your chest and smoke cigars and drink whiskey to prove you're a man, or you just know you're a man, and that's it. You just quietly go about doing things that men do. And one of the things I can tell you as men is that it is not beneficial, nor is it very masculine for you to consistently proclaim yourself to be a victim, right? It's not beneficial to you to constantly say, well, the reason my life is what it is because I get consistently victimized. There is a type of strategic and proactive thinking that comes with manhood that you should engage in. And so in this particular topic, what I see isn't just the individuals that are willing to do something as heinous as go on a date with somebody just so they can get free food. I see it also as a scenario where if you are thirsty, if you are chasing women, anything with a skirt, if you are falling for any big butt and a smile that within a 100-mile radius, and you willing to like throw the bands out and promote and market how much money you have in order to get that female attention. Do you understand what I'm saying? Those shiny, flossy, glossy men that love to brag about how much money they got. Well, you're going to attract a certain type of clientele. Give me a yes if you know what I'm talking about. People will respond. The customer will respond to whatever product you are marketing. So that means, ladies, if you're marketing legs and thighs and booty, then they're going to show up saying, okay, I'd like some two pieces of two thighs, a breast, a wing, and a couple of booty cheeks to go with it. That's what they're going to do. They're going to show up and they're going to order what's on the menu that you marketed to them. Give me a yes if you understand what I'm saying here. Right. And so you can't get mad. You can't say, well, all men are perverts and all they want to do is talk about sex. Well, if you're using your body to attract men that you don't even know. I mean, think about this. I know that we think it's empowering to sort of dress like Cardi B, and we tell women, oh, you're a square if you ain't showing coochie within 30 seconds. It's kind of crazy to me that a guy that doesn't even know you can see you in an outfit where he's literally 2 inches away from the good stuff. He's 2 inches away from your honey pot, and he don't even know your name. Right? You get what I'm saying? I probably sound like a crazy old man when I say this to something. Some people ain't gonna get it. Some people gonna say, but you're not with the times. You're not hip. You're not with the culture. Yeah. You stick to that culture. Are you talking about the culture where STDs are running rampant? Well, you can keep that culture. Are you talking about the culture where people are going broke and getting drug addictions because they're trying to fit in with everybody? Oh, you keep that culture. Are you talking about the culture of ignorance being promoted by these record labels that are controlling your mind? You can take that culture and you can shove it up your butt. Like, I don't want that culture. That's not my culture. That's not where I come from. That's not the culture of intelligent Black people, in my opinion. It doesn't mean that you can't live your life and connect and enjoy what you see. But it does mean that every choice, every decision has a cause and effect. Type that in the chat. Cause and effect, right? Everything you do has cause and effect. Everything you choose to do or choose not to do has cause and effect. Cause and effect. That I know that's a hard term for people to understand because it connects to something that we don't like to discuss called accountability. And I'm not just talking about women, I'm talking about men and women. We don't like to talk about cause and effect. Well, the reason your life is like this is because you did this. The reason you're in child support at the age of 37 and can't save a nickel for yourself or your family, and you have 7 babies mamas who are draining your bank account, is because 12 years ago you decided, some rapper convinced you, or somebody convinced you, the culture convinced you to go out and lay down with any woman that looked good to you. And then maybe you made a little bit of money, and you used that little bit of money, that little bit of status, or whatever it is you got, and you decided that you wanted to impregnate half the planet. So now there's cause and effect. You stuck it in, and now they sticking it in you. You stuck it in them, and now the state is sticking a fork in you. Right? You stuck it in them, and now they're screwing you. Right? You did some screwing 10 years ago. Now you were the top, and now you're the bottom. Right? And so effectively, what I want you to understand is that, and to me, this is very logical. I'm a mathematician. I taught math at the University of Kentucky, in case you don't know that. So I tend to look at just cause and effect. How does one thing affect the other? And this is one of the basic laws of, I think it's one of Newton's laws of motion. And so what I really don't understand is that there are so many people who don't understand that actions have reactions. So as I dig into this, let's talk about this study, and then I'm going to kind of give you a Dr. Boyce breakdown on this topic. And just a reminder, this podcast is on Spotify. If you go to Spotify and look up my name, Boyce Watkins, you'll find it there. Also, I'd be remiss not to remind you guys that I'm going to be speaking in Illinois near the O'Hare Airport at a Juneteenth festival hosted by JJ Conway. And that's going to be July 15th. So if you want to go, just go to boycewatkins.com. The information is right there on my website, boycewatkins.com. Then I'll be in Seattle doing a 4-hour deep dive intensive on my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. That's also on boycewatkins.com if you live near Seattle. All right, so let's hop into this. All right, so this study, I'm gonna read some of it to you, and then I'm gonna kind of give you a point of view on this. Now, why is this a topic that is of real interest to me? It's not just because I'm a Black man and I'm human, and it's not just because I'm interested in wealth. Years ago, I wrote a book called Financial Lovemaking, and in this book, Financial Lovemaking, I really wanted to deep dive, explore the relationship between love and money. It came from very simple things, like I did not understand how having more money suddenly made me handsome. When I was a struggling graduate student who drove a hoopty, who could barely afford lunch, dinner, breakfast, or nothing, who was eating ramen noodles, I found that it was a little, the dating process was a little different than what it was when I was a 31-year-old man making over $100,000 a year after I finished my PhD. I thought that was really interesting because I said, wait a minute, I look the same. I'm the same guy. I didn't get any nicer now that I have more money. So why is it that suddenly women think I'm a good catch? And I really thought that was also fascinating because I said, man, this is so crazy to me that you would invest your whole life in me. You would invest your all your good stuff in me without even knowing me. For all you know, I could be a serial killer. I could be somebody who is going to come in your life and do heinous, horrible things to you. But because I make a little bit of money and somebody told you, the culture, again, the culture, this is the culture, right? The cultures with a plural, with an S, because there are multiple cultures that incentivize you to think this way. The cultures told you that a man that has money or has a good job or has some education or has some status is automatically a good man. I think that is flawed thinking. I think that leads to very bad investing. Right? That leads, and when I say bad investing, what I mean is that you're investing your life, investing your body, investing your time, investing your love, laying your heart on the line for somebody who has not earned the right to get all that access. That's the crazy thing. In fact, I just saw this NBA player, Zion Williamson, who's going through it because apparently he got a girl pregnant and they're having a baby. He did a gender reveal on Instagram, and all these women came out of the woodwork. One of whom said, "I might be pregnant too." And all these women are pretty much going after Zion Williamson. And I thought this is so interesting because I'm sitting here thinking this is fascinating. That what did you expect to get from this man? Like, what did you really think? You really think this NBA player? I'm not saying it can't happen. Anything's possible. But this 23-year-old NBA player who just signed a $200 million contract, who goes to every single city and has probably about 100 women throwing themselves at him, is gonna like be a fit for a traditional monogamous relationship. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm saying that it's rare. Even the late Kobe Bryant, y'all know his story, right? So I think it's really interesting to me that we form these weird expectations of other people that don't necessarily align with reality. It's not just men that do it. It's not just women that do it. I think everybody does it because I think when you're a child, you're kind of fed these fairy tales, and then when your fairy tale does not match real life, you end up being very disappointed. Like for example, back in when I was in academia, when I was on the faculty at Syracuse University, and I was writing research papers on all kinds of financial topics, I noticed that there were scholars who were so addicted to theory that they could not connect the theory to reality. They could not connect their theory to the data. They would say, well, according to what I wrote on the chalkboard using all these advanced mathematical equations, this is the way people should react when the stock price drops because the company lost money, right? They would put all this on a board and they would think that because the theory sounded good, that it was supposed to connect to reality. And then what would happen is you would force them to do a reality check. Well, let's go check the world. Let's go look at the real world and see if the real world connects to your fantasy, to your theory, to what you wrote on the chalkboard. Give me a yes if you follow what I'm saying. So some people made fun of me because they think I talk over black people's heads, but I don't believe I do, because I believe that you're smart and I think you want to be smarter, and I can explain things to you. It's okay if you run into a concept you don't understand, I can explain it to you, right? So it's okay. So I hope it's okay if I give you this analogy. And so what would happen is some of them would get offended. Some of them would get really offended. They'd say, well, the reason that the real world doesn't do what my theory says is because the real world is stupid, right? Or because investors, people out there, they're just dumb. They don't have any sense. Or they would really disconnected from the real world. And they said, well, as long as I live in my little fantasy world, then whatever I say is true is going to be true. Right? As long as I might as well live in a Disney movie, because when I go outside of that Disney movie, I got to face reality. And I've been on the other side of that fence where I don't like to look at the way things should be. I like to look at the way things are. And that's hard to do, right? It's hard to face reality. It's hard to, we look at we a lot of us are trained to look at the way things should, or man should not do blah, 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 blah. But then I think it would be smart to kind of look at, well, what do men actually do on average? Right? What do men talk about when women are not around and they're not trying to tell lies in order to impress women to make them believe that they're going to fit the fairy tale? Because anybody can pretend to be a fairy tale. Anybody can play a part for quite a long time. It's easy. It's like acting, right? An actor or an actress can go into character and stay in character for a very long time. But eventually, reality kind of creeps. It has this ugly way of creeping in. And then you see reality and you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't fit my fantasy. I'm outraged. So then you just go back to the next cartoon character. You go to the next person who's willing to play that part and pretend to be something that fits whatever fairy tale you have. And then you just repeat that cycle over and over again for your whole entire life. So ultimately, I think the same thing is true with men. I think there are a lot of men who have these ideas about what women are supposed to do. Women are supposed to submit. Women are supposed to do this. Women are supposed to do that. Women are supposed to want this. Women do what y'all want is wrong. That's not gonna get you anywhere, right? I would say I would just look at it as I would like to look at the data. I read this book a long time ago. I hope y'all don't mind me going these streams of consciousness. That's what I do on this podcast. But I read this book a long time ago. I forgot the professor's name who wrote the book, but the book was called What Women Want Men to Know. And I read it when I was 31 years old because I did not understand women. I still don't understand women completely. And I read this book and it laid out exactly how women think. She had one section of the book called 15 Minutes Inside the Mind of a Woman. And I kid you not, it was like I felt like I was in the middle of a horror movie or something, because I said, there's no way human beings think this way. And then the person who wrote the book, she then says, when I read this to men, the first thing men say is, there's no way people actually think this way. Like she literally said exactly what I was like, this is, are you serious? And and I was shocked. I was absolutely, and I called female friends. I was like, is this what y'all really like? Y'all like this stuff and you think this way? And my friends were like, yeah, we do. And so it really opened my mind to understand something that people don't really get. I think people don't understand this fundamental thing that men and women are different. I went to my father's doctor and we were talking about the human brain. And one thing he mentioned was that he said the brain has gray matter and white matter. I still got to go research the difference between the two. So forgive me if I say something wrong. He said women have less gray matter and more white matter. Men have less white matter and more gray matter. And so just with that simple point, it showed that we're just different. Our brains are built different. We look for different things. Right? And so if you are a man and you look at women thinking that women should be thinking like you, then you're probably going to be frustrated your whole entire life. But also simultaneously, if you're a woman and you look at men and you say, well, why don't men do this? And men should do that. And anybody with the right mind should be thinking of that. Well, that means you're spending too much time talking to your girlfriends. You need to spend time talking to men and creating a safe space where they can be honest with you and tell you what they really think, instead of forcing them and forcing them to conform into what they're going to the point where they're going to say what you want to hear. Right? They're going to say what you want to hear. And then you're going to say, that's what I wanted to hear. I finally met a man who fits what I think a man should be. And then later on, you maybe find out that that man isn't exactly what he pretended to be. He's just pretending because he's trying to get access to the good stuff. All right, now do me a favor. Please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. This is drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. Also, that book, Financial Lovemaking, that I mentioned, it's on Amazon. Also, my new book is The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. You can take a look at that. And in addition to that, I have a training on my website, boycewatkins.com, called How to Make Money Without Working. So if you're interested in taking a look at that, feel free to go to boycewatkins.com. You guys know my background is finance. I'm a finance PhD. That's what I do. But also, I talk about topics like this, love and money, because they're deeply connected. They overlap each other. They affect each other. Your money affects your love affects your money. Making bad choices when it comes to love will ruin your money. Making good choices can accelerate your income. And people know this, right? That's why, for example, you have shows like Basketball Wives and Real Housewives and all that, right? And those shows are fascinating to me. First of all, I told my wife, I said, I said, just so you know, I'm not attracted to any woman on this show. Just so you know, if I met you and you said I'm on this show, I'm on Real Housewives of whatever, I probably would have walked the other way. There's nothing about these women that's appealing to me, because as a grown ass man, I know the difference between a beautiful woman on the outside versus one that's beautiful on the inside. So just so you know, that doesn't appeal to me. And thank God she agreed and we were on the same page. But anyway, with these shows, what's interesting, the other thing that's interesting about these shows is that most of the women on these shows, I don't think most of them either aren't married, so they're not really housewives. They just call it housewives, but they're not housewives. Some of them were just, maybe baby's mamas, not just baby's mamas, but they had a baby with an athlete. Most of them get on the show, it seems, because they have some link to a man who had a lot of money, right? They had a baby with him, or they were married to him and divorced him. And so I don't really know what you would get from these shows other than just entertainment, right? You get entertainment, right? It may be, for some people, it's fun to watch women in evening gowns throw wine glasses at each other's heads, or whatever, wearing, $500 red bottoms or whatever. And so with these shows, that really shows you that how love and money are kind of connected, because none of these women would be on this show if they had not at some point hooked up with a man that had resources, right? Or maybe some of them have their own resources now. Some of them have their own businesses now. So I'm not going to say that the man was the only person who brought money to the table. But this shows just one of a million examples I can point to that shows that linkage between love and money. They were they picked that athlete because he had all that money, and then when the athlete behaved like a lot of athletes do, again, studies show that high testosterone men are the most attractive to women, but studies also show that high testosterone men, like the Kobe Bryant types or whatever, they also tend to possess some negative traits that come with high testosterone. For example, there may be abusive behavior, because high testosterone men, they dominate, they conquer things, they like to fight and whatever, right? And then also sexual promiscuity is also connected to high testosterone, because the thing that bonds you and makes you committed physically to another person, one of the chemicals is called oxytocin. Oxytocin is the bonding chemical. That, for example, if you took oxytocin out of a woman's brain, she would not even be attached to her kids. They've done this. They have studies of gerbils that don't have oxytocin, and they don't even want to see their kids. They don't care nothing about their kids. So it's the oxytocin that connects you, right? Well, they find, from what I understand, again, I'm not a brain scientist, so forgive me if I say something wrong, but they find that testosterone can neutralize oxytocin. So the more testosterone you have, the less of a bond you have. It's like hit it and quit it. I'm gonna get this and I'm gonna go to the next one, right? Or whatever, spread my seed, that type of stuff that you see, especially when you're young. And younger men tend to have more of that testosterone. The reason that older men, don't get me wrong, older men can act a fool too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that men are are different just because of their age, but older men that get a little bit wiser, part of that wisdom comes from the reduction in testosterone. When you're 35 years old, from what I read, your testosterone levels in a man drop by about 1% per year. Right, 1% per year. So you're not acting on rage and this sort of emotion. You don't get as fired up over stuff. You sit back and say, okay, let me process this for a minute, right? So effectively, what I find is that men that get a little older, that have a little bit more to lose, that have kind of been there, done that, that are thinking about other things at a higher level, they might see the same thing everybody else sees. They might see beautiful women everywhere they go. A man can even be rich and famous and see all of that. And he might say, man, that looks really good. But he is going to factor in 1,000 variables before he makes the decision. He's not thinking like a dog. He's not thinking like an animal. He's not saying, ooh, 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 they look good. Ooh, ooh. Right? He's not doing that. He's not just like, oh, I got to hit that. I got to, right? That uncontrolled urge that you had when you were 24, it's kind of gone when you're like 44 or 54. And so effectively, what I would say to you is that all these variables come into play when you're talking about things like money and love and relationships. A man that has money is going to protect his money in certain ways that maybe he wouldn't have done when he was younger. Like Zion Williamson, it's going to, those women, all those women are going to cost him probably about $100 million, literally probably about 100 million. So that's some real expensive vagina. That's some real expensive sex. So he's probably going to pay $100 million for the Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon did an interview where he actually said he claims, I think he's claiming he makes close to 100 million a year because he does all those corny shows like the Masked Singer and shows I would never want to. You'll never see me hosting. You can't pay me enough to do that. But whatever, that's what Nick does. And I met Nick's father, by the way. Nick's father called me, and I like Nick's father. I could tell he's very pro-black. So I like that part of Nick and his upbringing, but I think that by creating sort of all these kids with all these different households, I wonder if he's prepared for all these side effects that come with that. I almost wonder if he's doing that in order to kind of remasculate himself after he was emasculated by the Jewish community just a couple years ago. If y'all remember, they pretty much took him out back and they slapped him, they butt slapped him like a baby. For doing that interview with Professor Griff, where he said some things that could be true, but you can't say those things and still operate in Hollywood because the Jewish community has a massive amount of control in Hollywood. If I lived in Hollywood, you would not hear me say one single thing that would upset the Jewish community because because the power there is strong. That's like going into the hood with a Klan robe on. You don't go into the hood and say the N word because you're gonna get beat down. So anyway, let me keep going here. So in this study, one of the things that was interesting to me about this idea that 33% of all women will go on a date just for the food is I want you to think about it like this. So let's read, and then I'll give you kind of a perspective on this. So they said the two studies, first conducted with 820 women, the second with 327, asked participants if they ever engaged in a plate for play. 23% of the women copped into the first study, 33% in the second. So 33% of all women said they will go on a date just to get the free food. The researchers, Brian Collison, Jennifer Howell, etc., also noted that the women who felt dating for food was socially acceptable were more likely to exhibit the dark triad of personality traits. What's the dark triad? Well, that's psychopathic behavior, Machiavellianism, and narcissism. So anyway, let's keep going. They said, in addition to egotism, with a side of truffled mashed potatoes to go, Collison said foodie callers, like women who go on dates just for food, are more likely to engage in one-night stands, faking an orgasm, or sending unsolicited sexual pictures. So this is interesting because what they're doing is they're painting a picture of the mindset of a woman who would consistently engage in this kind of behavior, right? So here's the thing. I think that there's a difference between a woman who's maybe done it once or twice. I really believe, I wouldn't be surprised if there were a lot of women who maybe at some point in your life, when you had no money and no food in the fridge, and some dude begged you to go out with him, and you were like, well, damn, I'm hungry anyway. And you went ahead and went on this date, maybe not expecting to deliver anything substantial to him after the fact, if you know what I mean, right? Or maybe you went and you were thinking, maybe I'll like him. I probably won't. He's got a 10% chance. There's a 10% chance of showers today, so it's probably not going to rain. I probably won't be making it rain on him, but I can kind of justify this ethically because I might like him, right? I might like him, right? So that's one category, right? But then you've got the category of women who do this consistently. And so what they're saying here in this study is that the women who do this consistently show personality traits that are very dark. They're more likely to be psychopaths. They're more likely to be narcissists. They also said that they're more likely to do one night stands. So that means cheap, superficial physical relationships, more likely to fake an orgasm, which means, lie or pretend or just whatever, and send unsolicited sexual pictures, which means you're leading with the body first. So, in a way, it's interesting because what it's kind of doing is it's pairing up prototypes of men and women. You got the prototype of the woman who leads, booty first, whatever, like titties first, right? Like check me out, look at this body, and you're getting this reaction from a man, and maybe your father wasn't around to tell you that that type of reaction is temporary. It's like putting paper on a fire. If I put newspaper on a fire, that fire is going to burn much higher than if I try to put wood on that fire. Putting wood on the fire is much harder to get the fire started and to keep the fire going, but once it's going, it's going to keep going. However, if I put paper on it, then I can be deluded. If I don't understand how fire works, then I can assume that if I just put a bunch of paper on the fire and don't waste my time doing the hard work of getting any wood, then I'm going to get a bigger fire. You get what I'm saying? Give me a yes if you follow that analogy. And I think that maybe a lack of understanding of men and how men actually operate could play a part in that. This is one of the reasons why my heart goes out to the fact that 76% of all Black women grow up in a household without a man in the household that is present on a consistent basis. I get it. There are millions of fathers who are doing their absolute best living outside of the house. But I'm going to also tell you this, and some people may not like it, some people may not agree, but there is a big difference between somebody living in your house versus somebody coming to visit your house. There's a difference between seeing somebody every single day versus seeing them once every 2 weeks. There's a big difference between somebody seeing you at breakfast, lunch, and dinner versus somebody just sort of calling you every couple of days after school and then seeing you once a month, or you going to their house in the summer. I'm not saying that it's all bad. I'm not talking about or judging how these relationships happen, right? But I am going to say that there are lessons you learn. Give me a guess if you know what I'm talking about. There are lessons you learn from having somebody of the opposite sex that's actually inside your house. Tell me, think about it like this. See, I have to elaborate on this because some people just seem to think that the father not being there is just, it's just an afterthought. Like it's like breaking a toenail or something. Like, it's not a big deal. Like if a basketball player broke his toenail, you'd be like, well, he ain't gonna miss the game. He can play without a toenail. We just wrap it up and get him out there on the court, right? That ain't like breaking a leg, right? That's how people act. You're like, fathers are nice, but whatever. You don't really need them because the woman can be the mother and the father. Okay, I want you again. I've done this before. If you follow me, you've seen me do this, and I have to do this again for people that are new. I need you to just reverse the roles, and I need you to think about your mother. And I need you to think about how important your mother was in your life. I want you to think about how involved your mother was with your upbringing. I want you to think about how influential your mother was in shaping you into the person that you are. And I want to ask you this question. If you think that not having your father around is not a big deal, would you say the same thing about your mother? If somebody took your mother away when you were 5 and then took her away tragically, like she just, went out for cigarettes and never came back, would you be the same person then that you are now? Would you have learned the same lessons? Would you have been built the same way if you had no mother? And I'm going to answer that question for you. I can tell you this. I'll answer it with an example. DMX, the rapper DMX, when he died, when he was on his deathbed, one story I read about DMX that was so sad was he cried on his deathbed because his mother abandoned him when he was a baby. His father was never there. His mother said, we're just going to go visit the orphanage. And she left him at the damn orphanage. So this man, 50 years old, was on his deathbed crying because his mother abandoned him when he was 5 years old. That required a lot of healing. DMX didn't need more record deals. He needed a therapist. DMX didn't need more money. He needed to be fixed. DMX did not need more fame and status and more fake friends. DMX needed some real friends that were going to step in his life and get him in a situation where he could really do the deep work that necessary to overcome such a horrible type of tragedy, something so painful. I mean, just absolutely devastating. But no, y'all thought it was cool because he looked good and he rapped good. He sounded good when he rapped because he had money. You think that he's successful and doing well because he's rich and famous, and that's all people think about. That's all they can see. I saw something much deeper with DMX. With DMX, I saw the same thing I saw with poor R. Kelly. You know, when I say poor R. Kelly, I'm not saying he's not accountable for the crazy things he did. I'm saying poor R. Kelly because R. Kelly needed an intervention about 25 years ago when that man married a 15-year-old. Right? And people I know that know R. Kelly, they basically said he was molested by a 12-year-old girl when he was 9 or 7 because he was a good-looking kid. I guess I have no idea. And he could sing, so apparently people like that stuff. And so because of that, he was always attracted to women that were the same age as his first. That was the R. Kelly story. I'm not saying just feel sorry for the guy. I'm saying, I think healing is important. I think there are a lot of black women that have to be healed. And what's sad to me is that because black women have been trained to be so strong, you're like wounded soldiers. You're like these soldiers that have PTSD who don't believe that you need a therapist. So people that are pumping you up, making you think that everything's okay, those people are wrong. People who are telling you that it's the world's fault that things aren't working out for you the way you want them to, those people are not your friends. Uh, Anybody who's telling you that that because you're a strong black woman or because you're or whatever, or telling you that not having a father doesn't matter, I think those people are wrong. I think that there's deep healing that needs to occur, and I would encourage you, if you really want to show up properly for the world and properly for the right situations for the right man, I would encourage you to do that work. In fact, I think everybody in this chat, every single person listening online on Spotify or listening on YouTube or TikTok, I'm on TikTok too right now, simulcasting. Anybody listening right now, you can all benefit from therapy. I'll be the first one to throw myself on the sword and say I talk to my therapist once a week, and we have a lot of work to do because my father abandoned me when I was a baby. I was raised by a very nice, awesome guy, a very strong black man who also happened to be a traumatized Vietnam veteran police officer who sometimes took discipline too far. Right? I was also raised by a loving, wonderful mother who went through some horrible things as a kid, where some of that horror showed up in the way she might have presented herself at times as a mother. And she has apologized to me. But the point of that is that there are healing processes I think all of us have to go through. So I encourage you, do the damn work. Stop thinking everything's okay. So because a lot of these people that do these crazy things that we're talking about, it's because they have this unresolved trauma, these unresolved issues. And the only reason I know this stuff is not just because I like to think about things and try to understand things, but also my wife happens to be a certified trauma specialist, among other things. She's a full professor of social work. Shout out to black women. She's also a licensed therapist. She does all this stuff. In fact, I'll put her website up here if you want it. She does see clients. I'll put her website up here if you want to go take a look at her website. So the point of the matter is to say that there's so much work we have to do. And what you see, anytime you see a black person really hurt another black person, I just want you to kind of try to think about the fact that hurt people tend to hurt people. So when I saw something the other day where a 19-year-old kid unloaded a whole clip full of bullets into a house full of children because he was mad at the lady next door, I thought about trauma. I thought about the fact that he was 19 years old and that he probably went through some terrible things, and he's still got to go to prison. But there's something that created the monster in him that thought it was okay to unload a clip full of bullets in a house full of kids. Normal people don't do that. All right, so do me a favor. Please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. By the way, my wife's website is coachingwithdralicia.com, coachingwithdralicia.com. It's on the screen. So feel free to take a look at her site. She's good at what she does, and I'm very proud of her. And I wouldn't be the same without her. And also, I think it's also important, even when I talk about these relationship issues, I always like to take a moment to make sure that we show proper respect to the black women that really have our backs. I feel like black people are kind of at war. I feel like we are at war with all the things that are designed to oppress us. We're at war with all the people that hate us. We're at war with all the things that cause us to harm each other. And so I see the black woman as kind of like our partner in battle. And I'm talking about the women that don't give up on us. The women that unfortunately sometimes don't get treated the way that they should. And also the men who don't give up on black women, because sometimes dealing with y'all can be hard, and I feel like I have a license to say this. I have a license to say that black women can be tough sometimes. Now, I don't know about Asian women and white women. I never dated those, right? That was never an option for me. But when you're dealing with somebody that really went through some stuff that created trust issues and barriers and just awkward ways of thinking, it can be hard. But if you're in it and you're committed and you're invested, then that's what you are. This is the life you choose. It's like playing for basketball. Went back to Cleveland, not because he had to. LeBron went back to Cleveland because not because that was the best option for him. LeBron was invited to play for the Knicks and the Lakers and all those teams. Back in the day, they said, why would you go back to Cleveland when Cleveland is a city that isn't going to invest in the kind of players that you need to win a championship? Why would you go back to Cleveland when it's not as lit as cities like LA and New York? Why would you go to Cleveland when the media isn't as big and powerful as they are in New York and LA, with the media capitals of the world? Well, LeBron said, I go back to Cleveland because that's my city. I love my city, and I'm going to win a championship for my city. And that's what LeBron did. And LeBron was able to do this and still win a championship because LeBron is strong. He's mentally strong. He's physically strong. They call him King James for a reason, and I respect him immensely for that. And he was strong enough to get in here and commit to the fight. So those black people who are committed to other black people, this is my point. The black man who remains committed to the black woman despite being hurt by a black woman, that's the strongest black man on the fucking planet, if you ask me. The black woman who's committed to black men, despite the fact that you've been hurt by black men, those are the strongest women on earth. Those are the people you want to go to battle with. The people that divest or say, I'm going to get a passport so I can get away from black women, or sit around whining and complaining about black men all day, those are unfortunately the weak and broken people. Those are people that just, don't have, they're not good teammates anyway. They're not, and also on top of that, they've lost their license. Your license has been revoked. Your black card gets revoked when you are sitting around complaining about black men, but you're not invested in a black man. Like that lady Ebony, what's her face, who said I won't date a bus driver and all that, and then she used that to kind of spin that into I'm encouraging black men to be excellent. I hear all that. I get it. I get that. When Ebony K. Williams said that she wouldn't date a bus driver, I supported her right to make her own decision. I thought Ayanna Van Zant should not have asked her that question. I think that was an unfair question. Also, I hear what she's saying about black male excellence. I support and encourage that every day, all day. The problem, though, is that she doesn't have the license to make that kind of a statement about black men, because when you look at her life and you look at where she's invested her money, so to speak, she's invested her wealth, meaning her life and her body and her future, into a guy who wasn't black. She it's not like she could say, sit next to her black husband and say, this is what black men need to do. No, you can't sit next to Guido or Mr. Rothenstein, or whatever, or the guy that had the biggest bag, the vice president of finance or whatever. I understand money. I understand that the guys with money are appealing. In fact, every single time, I'm gonna tell you a little secret that I do. A little secret thing that I do is every time I hear about a black person, male or female, that gets an important position in Hollywood, first thing I do, me and my wife do, this is our secret little guilty pleasure, we Google their spouse. And somebody will be like, they'll be like, so-and-so was just named the first black woman to be the head of ABC, blah, 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 the network. Oh, this is such big black excellence. And I'll be like, let me Google her husband. Oh, there we go. Now we see what's really going on, right? You feel that you're trading up because you want to be in those spaces that you define to be the spaces of wealth and power and access. And you define access as being around more white people and being around white people's money. And I get that. That's okay, fine. But the thing is that there are, to me, the ultimate access is not being around people who are not like you. The ultimate access is being around people who are like you. My wife and I, we spend time around each other. We spend lots of time around black people, and we're not poor. We are a millionaire family. We can say that, right? So this idea that somehow getting away from black people means that your life is going to get better is absolutely wrong. Now, anyway, do me a favor. Please hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, share, subscribe. And somebody says, why do you speak trying to appease everybody? You simplify yourself. No, Eli, you know what I am? I'm an intelligent black man who can see different perspectives. If you get on here as a man and all you can do is point to a study like this, and all you can do is sit around and blame women, Well, these black women, all these black women do, they be do the black women, blah, blah. You're not that's not masculine behavior anyway. That's bitchy behavior. That's bitchy behavior. Because what a man does, let me just school you a little bit on manhood real quick, because you're probably younger than me. A man takes accountability. You have to take accountability. It's like if you're playing a football game, everybody blames the quarterback when they lose or if they win, right? If you're the quarterback, you're going to get too much credit when they win, and you're going to get too much blame when they lose. So what does a good quarterback do? A good quarterback just said after they lose, he'll just say, you know what, I take full responsibility. If you look at Jimmy, what's his face, that plays for the, you know what I'm talking about, that plays for the Heat. Jimmy, they're trying to make him the next Michael Jordan. I don't know if he's there yet. Jimmy Butler. I don't even know if he's ever going to be. But Jimmy Butler takes accountability for the team. Jimmy Butler shows masculinity by saying, my bad. We're going to go up there. We're going to go to Boston and we're going to win. I'm going to make sure it happens, right? That's masculinity. Masculinity is partly defined by your ability to take accountability for something, right? What are you responsible for? What are you in charge of? Where is your territory? What are you the boss of? And this is not just true. I know y'all live in a feminized society where we try to reshape masculinity. And this is why I'm not a liberal, or I'm not into liberal stuff or conservative stuff. I think there are good ideas and bad ideas on both sides. But this is one thing I reject about liberalism is there's too much social engineering. They want to engineer you to believe that men and women are supposed to be the same. They want to engineer you to believe that all forms of masculinity, even the harmless forms, are dangerous and toxic. No, I don't. You're not going to ever make me curl up and grow a vagina. I'm not going to fit into your agenda. I want to fit into God's agenda, whatever that is. I'm not saying this from a religious perspective. I'm talking about just whatever God put in me as a man. That's okay. That's okay. Stop judging that. Stop trying to change that. Stop trying to transform that. So what I would say to the men that are listening, that some men ain't gonna listen. It's easy to sit in the corner and just whine and cry about your problems. I get it. Or blame other people. That's something you were trained to do in life because you're a black man and you're oppressed and you can't accomplish anything on your own. You need Joe Biden or somebody to come save you. I don't know what they're looking for, but I will say to the guys that really want to understand what masculinity is, every animal in the animal kingdom measures a man's worth or his worthiness for reproduction, typically by something related to his control or power over something, his dominion. Even giraffes. I watched this crazy thing where these giraffes were mating and make mating season. I guess they only do it once a year or something. And the giraffe that all the women wanted to mate with was the one who had the most territory. So if you are a man and you want to figure out like what makes me a man, how do I measure masculinity? Okay, if I want to be a man, do I smoke cigars because that's masculine? No, you can be a man and not smoke, because in fact smoking will kill you. If I want to be a man, do I got to drink liquor a lot and da da da? Because that's manhood. Because I got into an argument with a guy in Guyana. He offered me a drink and he had a shirt open and he was like all into this like masculinity, and I just kind of grew up understanding that if you're a real man, you ain't got to really show people you're a man. You just do what men do. And he offers me a drink and I said, no, that's okay. I'll take some water. And he said, well, in Guyana, men make fun of you if you don't drink. And I said, exactly. And the fact that I'm a man means that I don't give a shit. I don't care. I understand. I grew up with alcoholics in my family. I grew up with a bunch of drunk ass uncles and drunk ass cousins who never showed up for their kids. I grew up around a bunch of people in my family. I love them, but Lord Jesus, it was sad to see what alcohol did to some of these men. I grew up watching other young black men when I was younger who would go to the club and get drunk because everybody else did it. Next thing you know, he done shot somebody or got shot and ends up with life in prison. I didn't want no parts of that. So in my world, growing up with a father who did it all, my father he overcame a heroin addiction. My father overcame alcoholism. My father has seen the streets. My father has actually killed people. He was in Vietnam, for God's sake, and he was a cop. I grew up looking at the world, again, not based on what it's supposed to be, but based on what it is. Going back to what I was saying before, I didn't care about the theory. I want to know what's really going down. I want to know what's really happening and what really works. And one thing I concluded is I said, alcohol and drugs really mess men and women up. It has really messed up the black community. This stuff, my God, my daughter was hit a year and a half ago in a drunk driving accident from some white boy in Illinois who decided to get drunk and get behind the wheel. Like this is terrible stuff. So my thing is, I realize over time everybody isn't going to get that. I realize over time, I guess you have to have a type of courage to say things that are just not popular. I don't consider myself a courageous man on that regard, but I will say to you, for any young men, is that if you don't understand how to be your own man, then chances are you won't ever become a man. Do you hear what I'm saying? If you don't ever learn how to be your own man, then you will never be a man, because this society and the culture, everybody talks about hip hop and the culture. This culture does not build men. You know what this culture builds? If you listen to a lot of the music, the culture builds men that are going to have STDs. It builds men that are going to have a bunch of babies, mamas, and not be able to afford their child support. It builds a bunch of men who are going to be ignorant as hell, not know what's going on. So the white man will walk circles around you and have his foot on your neck your whole entire life. It builds men who are into instant gratification, not the investment and the strategy required for delayed gratification and ultimate success. It builds men who take pride in wanting to kill each other or celebrating Black Death. It also takes pride in men who embarrass themselves in front of the world by disrespecting the women who gave birth to you. That's what the culture builds. So if you are a man and trying to become a man, this is really true for any young man listening. If you want to be a man, first thing I'm going to encourage you to do, young man, is love yourself enough to know when to walk away from what other people tell you is the culture. Learn how to have the courage to stand by yourself, even if nobody else is going to stand with you. Gain that. If you gain that, then you can find manhood on your own terms without the constraints that other people impose on you in a society that only wants the Black man to show up as a little girl or a little boy or an irresponsible child. Irresponsible child. That's what they want. So you see a lot of Black men, some of them very popular, some of them very rich. They hide behind money, they hide behind status, they hide behind record deals. And these men, when I look at these men, he might be 45 years old with a beard. And I'm sitting here looking at this, I'm saying that ain't nothing but a little boy right there. That's a child. I would not go to war with that man if he was the last person on the planet. I don't care how much money you got. I don't care how many times, how many stages you've been on. None of this. I wouldn't go to battle with you because you ain't made of nothing. If they take away all this fake status and this fake support and this fake pretend love that they giving you and all this money and the mansions and all the stuff you use to confuse people and make them think that you're a man, when they take all that away, you're just like this scrawny little bony ass squirrel to me. Like you're like a little hairless chinchilla. Like I really don't see a man. But the truth is though, and I really think everybody should consider this, is that you got some real solid men out here that are never going to get a record deal, that are never going to be put on TV, that are never going to have $100 million in the bank. And that's because when those men really show up, and I can sense it. I can pick it up when I meet them. I meet you all. I see y'all on the street. Look, weak men tend to run away. Like they get nervous when real men are standing around. But when I see you solid men out there, and I want to encourage you because I don't think the world is going to really give you the support you deserve or the acknowledgement you deserve. These are the guys I would go to battle with. There are solid Black men in your community, and what's sad to me is that sometimes the culture pushes some women to overlook the solid men and go after the damn frogs. You look past the quality men and you going straight for the garbage. Why? Well, because the garbage is dressed up and it smells good. It's like food. You know how you have food that tastes real good, like McDonald's, but it's gonna give you cancer and kill you. Or maybe you have food that Popeye's chicken really tastes good or looks good, but you're gonna get diabetes if you keep eating that shit, right? And then somebody gives you like a salad, and you're like, why would I want to eat that? Well, because the salad, you can make it taste good, and it's gonna keep you alive. It's kind of like that. Sometimes the things that look good are just so bad for us. But it takes an amount of discernment and courage to be able to look past that, especially when you got 3 or 4 girlfriends in your ear saying, girl, if I could be with Lil Wayne, I would be. Girl, you better grab him before somebody else does. Right? So you go along with that. You go along with it because that's what everyone around you is telling you. Why? Well, because they don't know any better themselves. some of them just haven't lived long enough to see the other side of the fence. They don't know the other side of what it means to be married to a professional athlete who's cheating on you every single week and bringing diseases home to your bedroom. They don't know. They haven't seen that. All they see is the money and the status and all these other things, right? Just like men, we see the body, we see the sexuality. Those are the things that end up causing us to be a little bit stupid. And so what really I believe has to occur, and this is why I get online and talk about this stuff, because it's not easy. It's not easy because, sometimes, I get attacked and stuff and people say, oh, that guy, blah, blah, blah. But I don't give a shit because I really feel like there are people out there that kind of need to hear this. I feel like there are people out there that don't understand this world, that believe that things should be a little bit better and different from what they are. And I'm really speaking to those people. I'm hoping to give you courage to be okay with being a little bit different. Everything that I've ever accomplished in my life, and I've accomplished some stuff, everything I accomplished in my life, 99% of it was accomplished because I gained that courage to be different. And that started with loving myself and saying, you know what, even if I'm the awkward one in the room, even if I'm the only one who's saying something, I have enough love for myself and enough, which breeds confidence in myself, where I can say, yeah, I know all 300 of y'all said this and I'm going to hear that. I'm going to listen to everything you say, but I don't agree. And the majority believing something does not make it correct. But we tend to think that that's the case. Studies show that 80% of all people will follow the crowd, even if the crowd is wrong. So literally, there's only that 20% who are able to even have the capacity, the courage to break away from that. So God bless you if you're in the top 20%. I'm really happy for you. I'm very proud of you. All right, so let me finish up. Let me circle back on our topic. We start off talking about this study that says that 33% of all women go out on dates just to get the food. And y'all know how I am. I like to talk about all the other nuances of it, not just the topic itself. This is not just a news and gossip show. This is something where we want to have higher level conversations. If you could do me a favor, could you please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. You're watching drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. If you'd like to join us in the Black Business School, where we have helped over 10 million of our people invest in stocks for the first time, feel free to go to boycewatkins.com. There's some information there, or the blackbusinessschool.com. You can actually get started for free. We have stuff there for free, and then we have some stuff that does cost money, but then there's a lot of free stuff. You'll learn more from us for free than you'll learn from a university, even when you gave that campus $100,000 a year. I know this because I'm a college professor, and I understand that system from the inside out. And also, just a reminder, I will be in Seattle and Illinois coming up. If you want to join me in either Illinois or Seattle, just go to boycewatkins.com, and then the information's right there on the page. Also, there's a training on how to make money without working. That's also on my website, boycewatkins.com. All right, so let me finish up with a couple quick points here. So when you talk about women going on dates just so they can get the food, I want to encourage you to think of it in a different way. I want you to think of it like a business, right? And I want you to process it like this. There are businesses out there that, in order to acquire customers, will offer something for free. They will give you a free sample in order to get you to consider their product. So there are some businesses that offer free samples because the samples are cheap. Like if I sell cookies, I might give you one free cookie just so you can see what the cookies taste like. Or if you go to Baskin Robbins, they'll give you a little bite of the ice cream, even if you don't plan to buy any ice cream. That's not a big deal. It's very cheap. But I want to ask y'all a question. What if the product wasn't cheap? What if the product was very valuable? What if I went into the Gucci store? I want y'all to answer this for me. Give me a yes or no. If I went into the Gucci store and I saw a really expensive bag, let's say it's a Hermes bag, right? I don't know if Hermes is sold in the Gucci store, but I don't care. I'm just making this example just to make a point. So Hermes bags, they're fascinating because they got literally one Hermes bag here that costs $295,000. It's a Hermes. It's a brand new Holy Grail Birkin bag, Himalaya crocodile something, right? Literally, it's $295,000. So what if I went into the store, and I say Gucci store, but let's say it's the Hermes store. Let's say I went to the Hermes store and I say, I see you got this $300,000 bag, and I'm thinking about buying it, but I want you to let me hold the bag, and try it out. I want you to let me take it home for a couple of days just to see if I like it. What do you think they would say? Do you think yes or no? Do you think that they would allow me to take home this expensive bag just to see if I like it? maybe I might come back and buy 3 of them or something like that. Do you think that they would sort of hold out hope? If they would sort of let me just do what I want with the free product? What do you think? Yes or no? Or do you think that they would say, no, we're not going to do that? What do you think? Give me a yes or no. Answer this question. Then I'm going to ask you another question. Okay. Kathy says no. Mark Johnson says no. I see C. Osby says no. What else? Okay. All right. I see a lot of no's. All right. Okay. Well, let's change the variable a little bit. Let's say that I was Oprah Winfrey. And let's also say that not only am I Oprah Winfrey, but I have 10 Hermes bags already. I already own 10 Hermes bags in my house. Do you think that they would then let me take one home just to try it out? What do you think? Yes or no? Yes or no? I'm making a point here, I promise. They would probably change their answer. If I was Oprah Winfrey and I own 10 Hermes bags, and they know that I'm worth about $3 billion. So Oprah, she makes the amount of money for a Hermes bag in about 2 hours of work. That might not be an hour. I don't know how much Oprah makes per hour, but it's probably like $100,000 an hour or something like that. Okay. All right. Yeah, the answer changes. Now, what was the difference? What changed that answer? Well, what changed the answer was that Oprah is what is called a qualified customer. They qualified her. They looked up her background. They said, "Oh no." So the company policy may say, "No, we will never let anyone borrow the Hermes bag." But then somebody comes in and says, "No, this is the Oprah Winfrey from America, and she has billions of dollars, and she's bought $1 million worth of bags, or 2 million, or whatever." Right? It would be a different conversation. Why? Well, because Oprah is a qualified customer. Now let's go back to the analogy or the example we were talking about earlier. Men would take women on dates, and a third of these women are just psychopaths. They're hungry psychopaths. They're hungry. They're broke, and they don't care about you. So they're going to take that free meal and bounce out. And again, the accountability obviously belongs to the predator, right? If you are a predator who comes in and takes people's money and doesn't offer anything of value, then that's a problem. But then the question I would ask men, again, because I believe in accountability for men, is did you qualify the customer? When you gave the free sample is, hey girl, let me take you out. We can go out and have a steak dinner, whatever. Did you qualify the customer? Did you get to know this girl beyond the fact that she has a big butt and a smile? Did you work your way up? What they call in business, they call that the value ladder. Did you work up the value ladder, or did you just jump right in and start with the steak dinner at Ruth Chris? It's going to cost you $250 or whatever, right? Did you work your way up? So here's my point. This is where I'm getting at, because business gives you the answer to this equation. Basically, if you're offering something that is valuable to you, something that requires risk on your part, it's very important that you consider qualifying the customer. There are men out here I have seen that will see a beautiful woman and instantly believe all these wonderful things about this lady, not even considering the fact that she may have zero interest in you. She may not want to date a bus driver or whatever. But yet you'll throw out your best stuff on the first date. You'll take her to some expensive restaurant or whatever without even taking the time to determine if this customer was qualified or not for what you're offering her. You haven't spent any time on the phone with her. Because I'm gonna tell you like this. I'm an expert on identifying gold diggers. Why am I an expert on identifying gold diggers? I'm gonna tell you 2 reasons. One, I am a finance PhD, so I understand money in ways that I've probably forgotten more things about money than most financial experts will ever learn. 2, I had to do this because when I became more famous and had more money, there were women who saw the meal ticket. There were women who saw that I can instantly write a check that changes your whole entire life and not even remember that I wrote the check. I have given away over a couple, $2, $3, $4, $5 million to Black people over the last several years, right? I've done these things. So people that have resources can identify a person's motives in ways that maybe you can't when you're younger. right? So one of the things that I think that I would suggest to consider, if you're one of these men who's mad, because you got men that just get mad. They're like, man, these women, these hoes, they be doing it wrong. They dirty. They gold diggers. All these black women. Qualify your customer, bro. Just take your time and get to know her first. Or if you're gonna spend money and it's hard for you and money's tight, I get it. If you spend, because I made that mistake when I was 25. I took a lady out one time, and I noticed that when we were out, she didn't get one drink, she got two drinks at the dinner when we ate dinner. Because in the restaurants the drinks are expensive. I was a grad student, I wasn't making no money, I was broke. I literally was down to my last $250, and I took this lady out, and I noticed she got two drinks. She ordered the lobster and the steak and all this other stuff. And I remember being just pissed, like angry, because I could tell she was over ordering food because she was excited that she had somebody willing to pay for the food. Now, in this particular case, I did not realize until later that she was willing to pay me back, if you know what I mean. Like she was in that category. And this is what that study said. The study said that women who tend to go out just for the food are also the ones who will have the one night stand with you, right? Or whatever. So some of them are considering, making that trade. But I didn't know. Honestly, I was raised to be a gentleman. I didn't think, I thought a person's body was valuable. Apparently, I don't fit into the culture where bodies have become worthless and people just want to let any old STD infected person inside there. I don't get that, but whatever, right? I thought that I had to work to get something, and she was willing to offer it to me pretty quickly and for free. The unfortunate reality, though, was that when I identified her behavior, again, I was young, but I wasn't totally stupid. I was teaching college when I was 22 years old. By 24, I've been teaching college for 2 years at the University of Kentucky. And I remember thinking, I don't want to go out with you again. I can't afford it. And I don't want to be around somebody who just sees me as an ATM machine. I want a woman that's going to see me in a different way. So at 24, not only was I less mature and understood the world less, but I had less money. Now when I was single again at 44, things were different. Money wasn't as hard to come by. I wasn't offended if I went out with a woman who only wanted to hang out with me to get free food, because I learned to enjoy things that are harder to see when you're young. Like I learned to enjoy things like good conversation. I learned that you can really connect with a person without putting your penis inside that human being. I just learned that. I learned that these are things that, again, the culture does not support this. The culture says if she don't give it up, it's a waste of time. And I just really think, and maybe it just takes time to get that way. And maybe I'm probably just a weirdo in certain ways compared to some people. But I actually learned there's so many valuable ways to connect with a woman that doesn't involve you catching an STD or getting somebody pregnant or putting something inside her body. I just, so at 44, it was a different calculation. So I think that this discussion about money and love and women going on dates just to get the food, I think it does depend on how much money you have. I think that if money is hard to come by, you have to be extra careful. You have to vet the customer a whole lot more. You have to qualify, right? So if I was going back and I was talking to 24-year-old Boyce, sometimes I call him on the phone and I give him advice. So if I was calling up 24-year-old Boyce on the phone, I would say, hey man, look, don't throw your best out there for this girl, because you haven't qualified the customer yet. Instead of taking her to an expensive restaurant, take her out for a cheeseburger. Or instead of taking her out for food, take her out for a cup of coffee, or just get on the phone with her, get to know her. And then eventually you can identify how interested somebody is in you. So I really kind of think that overall, again, this is not going to be popular. Some people aren't going to like this, and I get it. A lot of people don't like me. They got guys that get online and complain about me all day. I'm in a crazy position. I get complained about by men and women. I get complained about by Democrats and Republicans. None of them like me because they think I hate them all, right? And I don't hate anybody. I just see all sides to an equation, right? That's all. I try to be balanced. I try to understand every perspective. And one thing I'll say is that I think for men who are upset about this study, I would encourage you to understand that these women are never going to go away. The gold diggers are always going to do what gold diggers do. Gold diggers are trained to dig for gold. And if you have gold and you're sporting your gold, using your gold to attract women, well, then the gold diggers are going to come to you the way flies come to doo-doo, right? They're going to come to you. That's their nature. So if you don't want them coming to you, then don't use money as a way to get female attention. Save that for the woman who's earned it. Save that for the woman who deserves it. Value yourself enough to say, I'm not going to go out here and try to be shiny for any woman, but for the right woman, oh, I'm going to show up in every way imaginable. And this is the thing that people got to understand, because they have these conversations about the word simp. And that word simp is used in entirely the wrong way, used by a lot of men who don't know nothing about getting no good woman, don't know anything about having good relationships, guys who got babies splattered everywhere, whose kids don't even talk to them. These are the wrong men to define a term like simp. It's just but if you want to use a term like that, one of the things that infuriates me, that I think is just highly inappropriate, is this false idea that you're a simp if you're nice to a woman, that you're a simp if you show up in the right way for a woman. You're a simp if you open the door for women. You're a simp if you spend money on a woman. You're a simp if you take care of a woman's kids. You're a simp if you do nice stuff. That's the most toxic nonsense I've ever heard in my life. And if you think that way, I hope that you'll reconsider your thinking. That's not, in some situations, that's not a simp. That's actually just being a gentleman. And the reality is that when you have a woman, part of the reason that you hate women so much and you're so mad at them is because you got hurt by some woman that you felt should be loyal to you, and she wasn't. Well, maybe part of the reason she wasn't loyal to you could have been the fact that you were so worried about guys calling you a simp that you started disrespecting her and mistreating her without realizing that another man is going to take your woman right away from you. If you don't treat your woman well, oh, some other guy will. If you're not being nice to her, oh, she's got a work husband who's just waiting for the chance to get his shot. Seriously, ladies, tell me you know what I'm talking about. Almost a lot of y'all women got these work husbands out there that are just like willing to do anything and everything to get their opportunity, and that's why they'll come and be like, "So how things going with you and that guy?" Right? That's they'll ask those questions, right? Because they're trying to wait for their opening, their opportunity. So I would say that the problem is not with treating women kindly; it's about qualifying the customer. Some women deserve all your kindness. My wife deserves every piece of kindness I can offer. There's nothing I would not do for my wife. My wife can go in my bank account. Yesterday, she went in my bank account and took money out. I did not even ask how much it was. My wife, and you know why I do that? Well, because she's my wife. You know why I do that? Well, because when I needed to get surgery and I was incapacitated, she was the person that was there making sure that the doctors didn't hurt me while I was out of it. I do that because I've chosen to spend my life with this person. But would I do that for just anybody? No. In fact, there's some people I've met where I didn't even want them to even know I had any money. I wouldn't tell them I had any money, because why would you use something like that to attract women and then get upset because women want access to the money? And I think the same thing is true for women. You don't let the culture, again, this terrible, terrible culture that's being promoted to Black people, don't let the culture convince you that you have to keep up with the hoes. You will never ever out hoe a hoe. You will never be able to outdo the hoes. Like you won't. Stop degrading yourself. You don't have to do that. And a lot of that attention that they get, all those likes they get on Instagram, because they taking pictures booty first and all that. That's not any form of sincere commitment from any man. All that is just somebody hitting the like button saying, "Show me some more." And, because in general, when you connect to somebody, you're setting a standard, you're setting an expectation. So if I set an expectation as a man that I'm just going to just make it rain on you, then that's what you're going to expect from me. If I set the expectation as a woman that I'm always going to sexualize myself into oblivion, then that's what men are going to expect. And I would say that on both sides of the equation, male and female, I would encourage some time qualifying the customer, because everybody doesn't deserve to have that level of access to you. And some of these people are straight up vultures. Some of these people are a demon in angel's clothing. Some of them show up as the man or the woman of your dreams and are literally there knowing that they're going to ruin your life and just keep it moving. How do I know these things? Well, because I know a lot of men that have a lot of money, a lot of fame, a lot of power. I know Kanye West called me during the convention and we talked for several hours. And I know lots and lots of men who have that level of fame, power, access, and everything. And let me tell you one thing about those men. They understand that for some of y'all, These men are drugs. They're drugs that feed into some fantasy that somebody jabbed into your veins that you believe in that is completely disconnected from reality. So they know that they show up, you get just blown away by their power, wealth, and fame, and you will give them whatever they want. And in their mind, they feel that they are entitled to all of that. Well, why? Well, because I have a record deal. I'm famous. I have money in the bank. I can send you $1,000 and not even think about it. And next thing you know, this man has ruined you. Think about this. I mean, you slept with this guy who's had sex with 5,000 women this year alone. What do you think is going to come of that? What is that going to amount to? So if anybody who's smart, I'm talking to the 20% that can understand what I'm saying here. Some people, they're just gonna get mad, and I get it. That's fine. I encourage you to really practice that level of discernment, that level of self-love. I think that if you constantly find yourself in situations that compromise you or harm you, there might be some deep-rooted issue from childhood that has impacted your self-esteem. Maybe it was the missing daddy. Everybody tells you it doesn't matter, but it does, right? That affects how you approach your relationships to the point where you end up consistently getting disappointed. You got to fix that. If you don't fix it, then you're going to be bait for the predators. So I don't want that to happen to you, because I tend to believe that good people, I believe good people should connect with good people. And what unfortunately occurs is that good people connect with bad people because bad people know how to identify good people, because they see good people as people they can exploit. And some of them exploit without any concern for the consequences or the other person. They exploit without any concern for the person that they're harming. And they do this because they also too are sick and damaged, and to some extent maybe a little bit entitled. So discernment, qualify your customer. So any man who's upset about the women that will go out with you just for free food, um, take your time before you make that investment in a person, because you're not just investing money. Remember, you're also investing time. And speaking as a wealth builder, as a person who understands the value of time in the wealth building process, don't waste all your time chasing worthless women. You waste all your time chasing worthless women. What you're doing is you're feeding this addiction you have to sexuality, and it's causing you to just make a bunch of decisions that are going to have you twirling and spinning in the same location. You're going to be 35, 45, 55 years old, and your life will not have advanced, and you won't know why. Well, maybe part of that is because if you take your day and break it down into a 24-hour cycle where you spend 8 hours sleeping, 16 hours awake, you're spending 7 or 8 of those hours at work, and then you spend the rest of that time chasing women who don't even like you. Women who ain't invested in you, women who ain't even thinking about nothing, ain't gonna be there for you on any level, who will only distract you, make your life worse, stress you out, drive you crazy, ruin you, embarrass you. Look at Zion Williamson right now. Look at what these women are trying to do to him. I think it's wrong. I don't think what Zion did is okay, but I mean, these women, they're just, they're tweeting. They're tweeting. Come on, you're tweeting about your sex life publicly. I thought, again, maybe that makes me old fashioned, but I thought that what happened between a man and a woman was private. I thought that kissing and telling was inappropriate. As a man, you will never see me get on Twitter and say anything directly about any ex that I've ever had. You'll never hear me say, "Oh, well, I slept with her, and let me tell you what this hoe did, and let me tell you what she does in the bedroom, and then she act like it." I don't even understand that. So one of the things that you also learn is how to avoid people who act that way, because when they act out, that's that trauma coming out, right? Something about whatever happened upset them, and next thing you know, they're trying to burn the whole building down. People like that are not the best people to have relationships with, and you cannot build with somebody who gets upset and burns the building down. You cannot build with somebody who does not have the balance necessary to understand what should be disposed of and what should be preserved. You cannot build with somebody who has consistently throughout their lives thrown the baby out with the bathwater. And let me tell you a little secret. These are all things you can discern with just a few conversations on the phone. So tell me about your previous relationships. How did things end with your last boyfriend? Oh, well, I got, he hurt me, so I cut his tires and stabbed his dog and tried to kill his mama. Well, okay, thank you for sharing, right? That's it. Now I understand you're not a qualified customer. But unfortunately, God plays a dirty trick on us as men. He puts these beautiful women in front of us, and ain't nobody more beautiful than black women. Y'all just the prettiest things ever. And then we end up making decisions that are not logical, not strategic, that are not going to get us to where we want to get to. And I would encourage men, ignore society's definition of manhood and find your own. And a lot of your own definition of manhood, in my view, should be based on learning how to manage your emotions so that you can learn how to be strategic in your decision making. Right? This requires some knowledge of self, not just you doing what people think black men are supposed to do. People think black men are so dumb. They think we're so immature that we're supposed to just go and stick our penis in anything that moves, make dumb decisions, put any crap in our body, drugs and alcohol, sit around and do nothing. And then when life hits us on the head, or when we're in some dumb situation and we get shot, everybody says, oh, that poor baby, that poor black man. That's not a poor baby. If he's 28, 30 years old, that's a man. That's a man that had some degree of equity in his life and in his choices. But pay attention. You don't hear people talk about any of that. When a rapper dies at the age of 45 from a drug overdose, everybody just says, prayers up. I love his music. R.I.P. Man, that was messed up. Is that all you got to say? That's all you got to say. You ain't got nothing to say about let's protect our boys so that they don't go down the same path. You ain't got nothing to say about, well, maybe you are bankrupt and dying because you made bad choices. Nobody says that. Nobody gets into that. And I find that to be the most unbelievable, borderline hilarious thing about life. But again, if you really process it, I want you to think about this. This explains a lot of your self-oppression. This explains a lot of what's happening in your community. People that talk like me, that sort of talk is not popular because accountability is hard. Accountability is difficult. But as a man, I would encourage you to be accountable. Think through your life. You're the quarterback. Your call, your responsibility. That's it, guys. I'm done. Thank you so much for listening. Again, this podcast, you're listening to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent black people. This podcast is on Spotify. If you want to join us on Spotify, just go look up my name on Spotify and you can find it there. You can listen while you're driving your car or working out at the gym. Also, reminder, I'll be speaking in Seattle and also in Illinois out by the O'Hare Airport. Illinois next week, Seattle's July 8th. You can learn more by going to boycewatkins.com. In Seattle, we're going to do a 4-hour deep dive intensive training on my new book called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, which you can find a copy on Amazon if you like. Also, if you go to boycewatkins.com, you can find some of my other books like the Financial Lovemaking book or the training on how to make money without working. So feel free to go take a look at all those things. And I hope you'll hit the thumbs up button on your way out. And I hope this conversation benefited you. I know sometimes I probably sound a little bit preachy, but I don't know. I feel like our community, maybe we need a little more preaching, not just on the gospel, but on the things that are going to help us succeed, be happy, and get to where we want to get to. I'm tired of us losing. You are not meant to be a loser. Got it? All right, cool. We're on the same page. Have a wonderful day. God bless everybody. And I will see you soon. Take care now. Peace.
Here we are, clearing the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.